All right, guys, jumping straight into it this morning. So went ahead and test fit the inner rocker and got issues right off the bat. So definitely some issues that we're gonna have to work with this morning. So you can see here, the inner rocker's mocked up. Pretty much perfect fit on the back side with those 3 holes that I showed in a previous video here. You can suck this, this rear portion of the inner rocker down and it should fit really good. Fits fantastic across the top, no issues there. What I did do is that I ran a bar because basically and you can kind of see it on the other side, but there's 2 floor supports that go here, and then this is where the front torsion support ties in up here. I ran just a bar across here to the other side where the floor supports still are. They line up perfect. No issues there. Measurements were good and should fit just fine. Now on the front side of this, one thing you have to make sure before you start welding this in is that there is this body line right here coming off the rocker. That body line also follows the edge of your door straight up. So if you don't get your rocker forward and back just right, your door will not line up with this lower rocker here. So ours is good, and like I said earlier, we're gonna trim this and make this nice and even here. But on the front side of this, and now especially that I have that front clip and I can see a reference, this rocker is definitely too long. The inner rocker is probably about, better part of an inch too long. I do have the end cap, and I test fit this before I put the inner rocker on, and the end cap lines up perfectly with this piece right here, which it should. But you can see, the inner rocker is supposed to slip into that little slot right there, and as you can see, it's pretty far off. So what I'm going to end up having to do, and even on the bottom here, our 2 holes lined up perfectly straight. So what I'm going to have to do, unfortunately, is that I'm going to have to cut and section the inner rocker and shorten it up by about 3/4 of an inch. So I'll take some more measurements and kind of get an exact measurement. But you can see, even these 2 right here, these 2 lines are supposed to be lined up too. So it is looking like the better part of an inch. Once that's done, this end cap will fit right here over the front, and all should be good. Should line up really nice, I hope. So let's get to it. We're gonna pull this inner rocker back out and start sectioning. All right, guys, made a real simple cut. Ended up just taking out about 3/4 of an inch from the inner rocker there. So I would say this is the width of painter's tape, but it's actually the width of electrical tape. Found my painter's tape strewn all over the yard from the kids the other day, so gotta love it. But ended up taking just an electrical tape thickness out of the inner rocker, and then tacked it up real quick. So just real simple tacks here. So what what I will have to do here is that obviously, this hole on the bottom side where we, because it's been sectioned down basically. So this hole on the bottom here is still going to line up with the fender. This hole, I'm going to have to elongate this, and I'll probably just fill in most of this here and use it kind of as a plug weld on the bottom side. But we'll have to drill another hole here for the fender. The fender mount holes here. So let's go ahead and get this thing fit, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. All right, so we got this inner fender mounted on here, and fits much better. So as you can see, we can actually get the end cap on now. Does fit here within this side piece, and then also on the top, it kind of curls around the edge of the inner rocker there, and this should be able to be bent down and go on just fine. So yeah, it was definitely the key, shortening that up about 3/4 of an inch. Fits much better. As I mentioned, we got one mount hole that's still perfect. This front mount hole, we will just have to open this up, and should not be too big of a deal. So what I do want to point out though, is that if you do remember in one of the earlier videos, I mentioned that is a Sherman inner rocker panel. So, I wanted to go AMD only on this build, and I think even though it's a small amount of work to get it done, but you pay for what you get. And something else I noticed too, and I'm really glad that I noticed it now, there's only a nut plate mounted on the passenger side inner rocker. The driver's side does not have it for the seatbelt mount. I would have been so pissed off if I would have mounted that inner rocker on here without there being a nut plate on the backhand side of that. So do your own research. Sherman parts, if it's within your budget, they're almost half price on some of their parts compared to AMD. But yeah, I don't think I'll buy any more Sherman parts. So it was overall, about 3/4 of an inch too long. And if you notice, outer rockers almost perfect, wheelhouse is almost perfect. So yeah, AMD quality, nothing else to really say about that. So but I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off, and I'm gonna start getting those inner braces mocked up. We are going to then drill all of our our plug weld holes, and I'm gonna shake. All right guys, it's been a long day out here, but we're finally ready to start burning some metal in. So I want to kind of show you, I saved you a lot of kind of boring stuff and just kind of fitting everything up, test fitting everything, making some adjustments here and there. Fabbed up a couple little small pieces, but nothing too crazy. So let's take a look at this thing. So it's all in weld through primer right now. Filled a lot of all of our holes that we didn't use on the outer rocker underneath. So that's all taken care of. This is all lined up, looking good. All the holes here are punched across the back side, so that's ready to go in. I did mention earlier that I'm not going to weld this wheelhouse in until I can fit test against the outer quarter here when we get that put in. But you can see that once this is sucked in, it lines right up real nice with that wheelhouse. So looking across the front here, this is all looking good. Everything's all trim, so it's all looking real nice. So pretty much ready to do one final test fit with the door, just to make totally sure before I make it permanent, and then we'll start welding. Oh, wanted to show you one thing real quick. This is that bracket out of the donor car that I showed you earlier, the donor front clip. This is that front bracket that goes on the inside, right up in here. So pretty much right underneath that transition there. But glad I had this. I would have never guessed that it looked like that. I was actually going to make something pretty close to what was in the back here for that front side. But they're both in good shape. Those are both in primer as well. Do have my inner rocker here sectioned, blended. Everything looks good there. Just got to throw some primer on that as well. Already did the back side here. But that's all looking good. And then like I showed you guys earlier, I did punch all the holes here in the end cap. But once we get it welded in on the outside, gonna clean everything up on the inside again, and then I am gonna pour 15 everything inside and out to hopefully prevent anybody from ever having to do something like this again on the car. So but let's jump into it and let's start burning some metal in. All right guys, this is what the door looks like fitted. Everything went back on just fine. You will notice, obviously, I have some serious rot here. I will make a door skin video in a future video. But it fits good. At least looking at what I can tell across the bottom here. Not necessarily the best reference, but at least it's even across the bottom here. When I first started, I did have a pretty bad door gap here on the backhand side, so I did account for that up here. So you can see that I actually fit the rocker a little bit further back than what the door was. So that way I could slide the door back and be just fine here with my door gap. So but that's what it looks like. Fit check looks good. Let's get welding. All right guys, back at it this morning with what will hopefully be the last day that I'm working on this driver's rocker. It's a big job. If you're thinking about doing it, it's a pretty big job. But then again, I do probably have more rust than what you guys are working with, and having to fab up a lot of panels as I go. So we're gonna go ahead and jump straight into it. Was able to make some pretty good progress last night till I got yelled at. So I had to come to an abrupt end a little bit late last night, but did make some really good progress. So let's check it out. Did get the outside, or the outer rocker, excuse me, completely welded in. That's all good to go now. Back here, welded in just fine as well. Everything lines up really, really nice, and the fit check was pretty solid too. So looking at the outer rocker, like I mentioned earlier in this video, the Sherman rocker, at least the driver's side, which is really strange, did not come with the seat belt nut plate on the back side. So thankfully I kept my old one, was able to just drill it out and weld it in. So not too big of a deal. But like I said, it's kind of strange that it was on the passenger side, just not the driver's side. But this is thankfully a much easier part as we go to weld in this inner rocker panel. Everything has already been drilled out, got all that done. I do have to, I'm gonna pour 15 the inside of all my panels, just to make sure, again, that nobody's having to deal with rust again on this car in the future, or me, or one of my kids in the future. I don't plan on getting rid of this car anytime soon. But yeah, still a ton of work to do, but it should be hopefully pretty quick this morning. Was able to get the brackets installed here on the inside. You can see those went in just nice, and they really added a lot of strength here on this on the inside of this. So but that all went really good, and let's go ahead and get cranking. All right guys, so for prepping this this outer rocker here and just cleaning it all up before we start to do the pour 15 coat on it, I always like to use the Eastwood pre-painting prep. Really good for removing, it says remove silicone, wax, polish, grease, and dirt. But it really just leaves a nice clean surface, so that way you have good adherence. And this is really good stuff if you're doing primers, epoxy coats, paints, anything like that. It works really nice. So pretty straightforward. Just clean it up, wipe it off, and it really cleans up the surface of the metal on the inside of this here. So we're gonna go ahead and pour 15 everything except for the seam where we're gonna be welding at. Obviously I need that to be bare metal, so that way it doesn't interfere with the weld sticking once we do that. So where's it at? Here we go. Yeah, just the basic red can of pour 15. I will say, make sure you wear gloves and do not get the stuff on your skin. It will stay it will stay on your skin for probably 3-4 days if you get your hands covered in or something like that. Obviously it's not going to come out of any of your clothes or anything, so always wear gloves. You'll thank me later, I promise. So, but pretty basic from here. Just brush it on like you would any other paint, and it'll leave a lasting, just a lasting coat, lasting protection for years to come. All right, so I finished up pour 15 in the inner and outer rockers, and got everything tacked in, and everything fits really nice. I do have a whole bunch of tech screws kind of all around here, and feel free to, use as many of those as you need to across here. All it is another plug weld that you got to put in. Also saves, because otherwise you'd have to be going around and doing a whole bunch of clamps and following yourself around as you go. So it's a whole lot easier way of doing it. The fitment here on the back side, really nice. A little bit of a difference down here, but really not a big deal. So I think that'll actually suck back up once I put in another tech screw. But all in all, it fits fantastic across the inside of here. Something else I did too, and because I still have the passenger, the passenger side of the car to reference off of. I laid this bar across here, and you can see like the indent down here of where those floor supports go, the two here and then the torsion support up here. What I did is it just real simply, I centered the bar up across the car here, because I still have the other side to go off of, and just ran it dead center to dead center, and both of them came out to about 16.5 inches. I mean, and there's definitely some wiggle room here too, but what I will do is that I will finish putting this thing in, and then I still have to run to Summit probably later on today, and we'll get those floor supports, brand new floor supports, and we'll line all those up, measure them up, put them exactly where they need to go, and then weld those in, and then I get to do everything over again on the passenger side. But it's going really good so far, so let's get this thing tacked in. Beautiful. Hey guys, so if you are doing this for a first time, basically all that I'm doing here is sandwiching the metal together as tight as you possibly can, and literally just fill the hole up. And what that does, it bonds the back side to the front side, creates a really strong bond, and yeah, holds really well. But what's really important though, definitely try to get it as tight as you possibly can. You may notice that I'm kind of following in between welds just with a clamp. Now the screws definitely help hold it in place together, but putting that clamp right next to that really pulls everything in tight together. Otherwise, if you don't have it real tight, it's going to end up most likely burning through the metal, and you're going to have a really bad seam where the two pieces of metal meet together. So clamps are definitely key, and like I said again, just make sure that it's as tight as you possibly can when you're following all around the weld here. Another tip too, make sure that the metal does not get too hot. You can definitely, like I said, burn through it, but also, you know, with especially with bigger panels, you can definitely have some really bad warping issues if you know, if you're not careful and you're putting too much heat into the panel. But this pretty simple. Just keep on following it all the way around. You can definitely work your way around it. You don't have to go sequencing in a line all the way around. It's probably best if you actually do kind of a couple here and there, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. So a couple on the top, couple on the bottom, and progressively working my way around this entire panel. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. If you're new to welding, this is actually a really good one to start with because it's pretty simple. So and most likely you're going to end up grinding these down anyways. Nobody's ever going to see them, but it's a really good way to get some practice in. So let's finish this up. All right guys, we're all wrapped up for today. So made some really good progress over the weekend. I'm really happy with where things are at. Let's go ahead and take a look. All came out really nice here. Full inner, full outer rocker is completely done. Still obviously got some metal cleanup here to do, just with grinding down the plug welds and blending everything in. So, but overall, I'm really happy with how everything went. Inner rocker, super easy. You can see all these little dots right here. These are the plug welds from the inside, but that all went really nice. On the front here, same thing. Did create a little corner pocket piece right here. Again, we got to blend this all out, but it'll be smooth, and you won't even be able to tell that it's there. On the inside of this, I did leave this unattached to this piece here, just because when we do put the frame on, this frame attachment here on the new front clip, it is going to be pulling this piece into the frame. So left that off for now. Also left this off for now too, just if we have to make any final adjustments. End cap went on real nice as well. Here on the inside, you can see the seam turned out pretty nice here in the corner. Yeah, all the way through here, across the bottom, and then over to the end. Turned out pretty good, like I said. So we're still gonna have to dress up the metal quite a bit and clean everything up, but I'm really happy to have this done, not happy to have to do it all over again for the other side. With this rear wheelhouse here, everything lined up really nice for this, and the metal should pull in nice and tight on the inside here without any issue. I am going to leave it temporarily tacked in just in case I have to move anything slightly forward, slightly back when I have to put on this rear quarter panel. I will have to get an inner wheelhouse and address that at some point here because it's pretty rough too, especially where it meets up with the trunk pan here. But no, aside from that, pretty happy, really happy actually. It turned out a lot better than I thought it would. So you can definitely tell how much firmer the whole car is with a new piece of or a full new rocker in there as well. So yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up today's video, and I hope you guys are liking the videos. Any feedback, comments, suggestions, or any tips, if you guys are picking up on things that I'm not doing right or could do better, please feel free to drop them in the comments. You won't hurt my feelings, I promise. Just a quick sneak peek of what's to come here. So like I mentioned, I picked up that front clip that's sitting out there now. I am essentially going to cut the entire front of this car off here in the next few videos. I do want to get the other rocker panel installed, get that torsion support across there so I can jack it and support it from the center of the car. And then yeah, I'm going to be taking it straight here at the aprons off, and yeah, that whole front clip's going off. And that one that's sitting out there that's in amazing shape, Jesus, I wish I would have had the rest of that car instead of this car, because every piece on that front clip is better than what I have here. So I'm going to be pulling the cowl off my car to swap out with the cowl on that, and then yeah, we will get to that front clip. One thing I did notice though, I wasn't planning on doing a firewall in this. The firewall actually looked pretty decent, but now after I look at it, I may have to address the firewall. And that firewall is actually not good on the new front clip. So once I get this front end cut off here, we'll probably address the firewall at that point and get that done. But it's moving along. It's happening quick, and appreciate you guys following along. Yeah, so that's gonna do it, you guys. Stay safe, have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.